Namaskar. Welcome to my channel, that is Metaphysical Bharat. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 6 schools of Vedanta, and this is quite an intriguing topic because we have 6 schools of philosophy, and people at times tends to confuse between 6 schools of Indian philosophy, that is Bharatiya Darshan, and 6 schools of Vedanta. Now, one of my objective of starting this particular channel of Metaphysical Bharat is basically to have a lot of discussion and get into a lot of understanding about the mystical aspects of Bharat, especially from the philosophic or the darshan perspective, and of course to propagate the knowledge on the Sanatan aspects and the Dharma aspects, and of course the core spirituality of India. Do watch my videos, and also do like, share, and also comment. And I would love that you also give your participation in your comment box so that I understand how you are liking the videos. And so Metaphysical Bharat is one of the channel to give and to reach people. You can also support my videos by certain kind of a contribution. So we are talking about the Metaphysical Bharat with respect to the schools, various schools of philosophy in India, that is called Shad Darshan. And आज की जो वीडियो है इसमें हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे वेदांता स्कूल्स, जो 6 schools है उसके बारे में. Now before I get into the 6 schools, let's understand that the reality, जो reality जो है, how do you perceive the reality? So different seers and the rishis has given their own perspective, and आज उसमें हम लोग गौर करेंगे. Now, the word Vedanta has Ved and Anta. Ved is talking about knowledge, and Vid is to know or to see, and Anta means the cutting edge or the Ant of knowledge, the end of knowledge. So where the knowledge ends, there comes the enlightenment, the wisdom comes. And when you are trying to understand what exactly is the reality, Vedanta is one of the ultimate school, and it is one of the school of 6 schools of philosophy, which itself also has 6 schools. So it has a lot of layers to understand. Now there are 3 processes by which we understand the reality. So it's called Shravana, which is all about listening; Manana, that is all about contemplation; and the last one is called Nididhyasana, that is basically called meditation. Now in those early days, of course, we never had any kind of a modern gadgets, but definitely there cannot be more better gadgets than the mind or the brain we talk about. So the rishis in those contemplative period, they used to be in the aranya or in any solitude, in their own solitude, and used to really contemplate. And most of the, rather all the literature that we have in our Sanatan system is apurushaya, because we don't know exactly where it came from, but definitely it got passed from great sages. So ultimately, we are trying to understand the layers of reality. So we have 3 layers. One is called Jiva, that is we, as somebody who is living. Jiva. Jagat is the surrounding, and the Brahman. Now Brahman is something that is being much talked in the Upanishads. And then we have another concept called Atman, and ultimately Atman is equal to Brahman. So we'll cover that in a separate video. Brahman is something which is brihad, vast, something which is burst forth, and something which is very difficult to define in English. And it is more to feel what is Brahman, and to some extent we can say that it is consciousness. So though the word consciousness itself is so mysterious and it is so intriguing that exactly we don't know exactly how to define consciousness, though there are a lot of scholars who has worked on it. And ultimately, we are trying to understand what is the Brahman and Jiva and the Jagat, and different scholars has given, or rather I would say, in those times, the rishis has given a different kind of an orientation. So Vedanta is one of the school of Indian school of philosophy. And now today, in this video, we are trying to understand the Vedanta itself has 6 schools. And what are those schools? So first is the Advait Vedanta, which was propounded by Adi Shankaracharya, who is also considered as a Jagat Guru. And And a lot of philosophy and its core understanding is very, very popular, and it is most sought after philosophy. So what does Advaita Vedanta says? Advaita Vedanta says that ultimately it is the core reality is the Brahman, and what actually we see in and around is the Prakriti, and as such there is no difference. It is called principle of oneness. So the Atman and the individual soul is same as the universal soul, that is called Brahman. So Atman is equal to Brahman, and there is another principle called the Maya. What you see the world is basically nothing but it is an illusion. So Advaita Vedanta is talking about the principle of oneness, and this is a vast philosophy. So in this video we are just getting the very brief so that it triggers to really get into the system. And it was given by Adi Shankaracharya, as I stated, in around 7th or 8th century. To know more on Advaita Vedanta, one has to really understand the teachings of Adi Shankaracharya, and where he has given a lot of Strutam, and it is something where you get touch. So Bhaja Govindam is one of them, and we have Vivek Chudamani to really get more. And then there are so many literature on this, and it is something which is people are studying, and it gives us a lot of solace, because ultimately me as a person is same as the Brahman. And once you know that, we get into the Bhakti Marg. Ultimately we are all going to pass away from this mortal world, and you are all going to get merged into something. So what is that something where Adi Shankaracharya has given a lot of layer by layer the explanation. Even Bhagavad Gita is also on the same principle of Advaita Vedanta. Upanishads are also promoting, rather they actually also they talk about the Advaita tradition, because this is one way of understanding the reality. Then of course we understand the second one, that is called Vishishta Advaita, that was given by Ramanujacharya and around 11th or 12th century. Now Vishishta Advaita Vedanta is basically like Vishisht. When you say it is called specific, and of course we have the Vedanta, the component is always there, because we are trying to understand the 6 schools of Vedantic system. Now Vishisht means something which is distinct, and at the same time it is a part. That means Vishishta Advaita says that the very soul is distinct, that is very individual soul is distinct, but at the same time it is a part of universal called actually Brahman, and everything is ultimately a part of Brahman, but at the same time the individual soul is distinct. So it is talking about separation in terms of its distinctness. That is why the Visishta Advaita comes, and Advaita comes because we are talking about the Brahman. Ultimately the Brahman is the core. The third one talks about Dvaita, or Dvaita basically talks about the duality. So here Dvaita talks about the dimension of both separate, and this was being propounded by Madhavacharya. Now that is the individual soul is there, and then the Brahman is there, and both are distinct and both are separate, and that is how things are actually operating. So this is where, and the world that we see in and around us, the Prakriti that we see in and around us, the surrounding that we are already there, so that is already realistic. So Dvaita is something which is very, very empirical, and this is something that many people feel that yes, we have something which is distinct, and another thing is that we have something which is ultimate, and both are separate, and we have a world around us, and that is distinct. So that is an empirical dimension. So we have already seen Advaita Vedanta, that is the prime or the supreme soul is the one, and there is no difference between the individual soul and the ultimate soul or the supreme soul. That is the talking about the Advaita. And Vishishta Advaita is basically called distinction, and then the supreme, and also the distinction is also dependent upon the supreme. And Dvaita is talking about both are separate and the world is real. And then the fourth one talks about Dvaita Advaita Vedanta, Veda. That means it is talking about that there is a distinction and there is a supreme, and it is individual, it is separate, and at the same time it is inseparable. So it is considering both. Bheda. So it is Dvaita Advaita. That means it is getting into the duality and also non-duality. So both are actually operating at the same time. It is given by, proponent by Nimbarkacharya. And then we get into the fifth one, which is called Shuddha Advaita. So Shuddha basically means pure, and Advaita, of course, is coming from non-duality. And this was given by, proponent by Vallabhacharya. Now this is something which is a core with respect to much more hard with respect to the way we understand the Brahman. It says that the Brahman is the ultimate, and there is nothing called duality, and everything that we see in and around us is because of the manifestation of the Brahman. So it is a bit different from the first one, that is Advaita Vedanta, because Shuddha Advaita says that ultimately everything is the manifestation of the Brahman. Whereas in the Advaita Vedanta, it says that there is a individual soul and there is a supreme soul, and ultimately both are same. But in the Shuddha Advaita Vedanta is different, because they say that there is nothing called individual soul. Ultimately, our individual soul is nothing, but they are all manifestation of the ultimate. I strongly believe that this is something which is quite a core and very hard at times to understand. But ultimately, we're all coming from a core, and that core is something called Brahman. And that is something even the modern physics is trying to understand. Probably you can call this as the principle of vibration or principle of energy. Ultimately, we're all manifestation of energy. So Shuddha Advaita Vedanta requires lots of exploration and more of further studies. And ultimately, of course, we all are into the world of duality. So expecting something which is much more higher than the duality comes at an element of a contemplation. Again, we are talking about something where we are getting into the core of understanding more of a Nididhyasana, because this actually comes in more of a bhakti tradition, that we understand that there is a Brahman. And lastly is Achintya Bheda, that was given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu around 16th century. So which Achintya means something which is incomprehensible, and Bheda again, it is coming from Dvaita Advaita. So it is a combination of some of the earlier school of Vedantic philosophy itself. So that means we are separate and we are inseparable, and also at the same time we cannot actually conceive. So it is a kind of a leela, it is a kind of a play. So we are separate, we are not separate, and it is inconceivable. So to summarize, we have 6 schools of Indian philosophy. The first is called Advaita Vedanta, that is given by Shankaracharya, and it talks about we are distinct, and at the same time we are one with respect to the way things are happening. But ultimately, it is oneness that Advaita Vedanta talks about. And then we are talking about the second one, which is which actually talks about the Vishishta Advaita, where it talks about the distinction. And then it is talking also about the ultimate soul, that is the universal. The third one is the Dvaita, that is both are separate and the world is real. Then we have Bheda or Dvaita Advaita, there's a play around both the dimensions. Shuddha Advaita says that it is ultimately the manifestation of the ultimate Brahman, and ultimately whatever actually we see is not there. And the last one is Achintya Bheda, which is again there is a distinction, and it is incomprehensible, and it is separate and it is inseparable. Now these are actually at times very, very confusing. So one has to really take certain kind of time to understand the way the reality functions and the way things happens. And we understand all these dimensions with our own mechanics, with our own understanding. But definitely it is good to understand the philosophy, because this is the way that our seers, our sages has actually given us the reality in front of us. And ultimately, it is through the bhakti we have our own individual understanding, and this gives us an understanding the way we conceive the world around us. And more we realize through our bhakti and through our meditation, the more we understand the way what exactly the seers are all talking about. And then of course we can integrate in our life. Stay tuned to have more such kind of a discussion, and do visit my website, that is sumitroy.co. We'll be having many workshops and many programs related to the Advaita tradition and also our metaphysical Bharat. Stay tuned. Namaskar.